Wrestling fans, what's going on, man? It's Black Couch Booking here with a brand new video. If you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe. I promise you will not be disappointed. And as always, if you're old to the channel, Couch Crew, what's going on, man? Hope you guys are having a great day today. Please follow me on Instagram at Real Black House Booking and please join my Discord. Link should be in the description down below. And I'm ready to get into this video, man. I'm sure this might be a nice little debate, depending on what side of the fence you're on. And I'm sure you guys are gonna like it. My new Patreon will be coming soon. Do not worry. Exclusive, uncensored, unfiltered content will return. You know what I'm saying? They try to, take your boy out the game, but I'm not giving up. You know what I'm saying? We're on the road to 10K subs. So if you're new, please subscribe because I promise you, over 1,400 videos of content on this channel, you'll find something that you'll enjoy. Trust me. And we keep things real over here. So I'm gonna keep it real. In my humble opinion, um, I think that WWE signing free agents and sending them to NXT is a detriment to homegrown NXT talent. Like, I sincerely do, but there are exceptions to what I'm saying for sure. Obviously, just because, something is a rule don't mean that it'll occur every time. But just because something occurs, does not occur every time doesn't make it a rule. You know what I'm saying? If something happens 8 times out of 10, it's still a rule. It's just two exceptions. And with that being said, Jordan Grace should never have went to NXT. I sincerely believe that Jordan Grace should have never went to NXT. Jordan Grace was the TNA Women's Champion, multi-time TNA's Women's Champion, if I'm not mistaken. Why is she going to NXT? If you're at the top of another company, I don't care how smaller the company is, unless you're doing something like if Zillify 2 come from Booker T's company and go straight to NXT, that would be fine because that's more of an independent. TNA is a official wrestling company. When you think about the big, not the big three, but you think about WWE, TNA, AEW, WCW. TNA, WWE, like you know what I'm saying? Like TNA is one of those. So why is Jordan Grace going to NXT and with women who are younger in their 20s, have never had a world championship opportunity, learning how to do promos, learning how to wrestle, learn how to do all these things. Where Jordan Grace has not only compete because you can't say, oh, she's going to learn the system. She's competed in what, two Royal Rumbles, and she's competed on NXT when she was the TNA Women's Champion. So why would you come back to NXT to win the NXT Women's Champion? And Jordan Grace is above that. The Jordan Grace is taking other people's spot. I already said she's basically in the position that Zarya should be in, even though Zarya is an outsider as well. Zarya is a different case, and this is the exception. They booked Zarya in a position where she's actually helping to uplift Sol Ruka in a way, because it's the odd couple pairing. It's the Io Sky and Zoe Stark pairing way back. You know what I'm saying? It's the Kane and Daniel Bryan. It's the odd pairing that for some reason works out and it's entertaining to a certain extent. So they put Zarya in a position with Sol Ruka where she's not hindering Sol Ruker, whereas Jordan Grace is on the roster. A lot of other people could have been in Jordan Grace's position, not stand and deliver. Jordan Grace and Jada Parker, if they had a one-on-one feud and Jordan Grace actually uplift Jada Parker, then I would understand. But even if Jordan Grace doesn't beat Stephanie Valkyrie, what's next? Does she then go to the main roster? She could have been went to the main roster. Someone else could be in this spot. Jordan Grace on SmackDown just feels right. And not only does it feel right, you could have even did this, right? You don't want to elevate Jordan Grace to the highest potential, to just main event status so she pop up on the roster. Put her on Raw, pair her with Ivy Nile, two short, buff women, and now you have a new tag team to add to the lackluster women's tag team division who doesn't have a lot of legit tag teams that have makeshift tag teams. Jordan Grace and Ivy Nile would be a match made in heaven as a tag team. They could be the two short women who are buff. People could underestimate them or try to underestimate them because they're smaller, but they're both like mad buff. And that would give Ivy Nile something to do rather than wasting her time in a feud that we couldn't even officially get with Lyra Valkyria. That's something you could have easily done, right? And I will say this, this point is really going to apply more to the women's roster of NXT because they're so stacked. Like the men's roster, I wouldn't say is lackluster for NXT, but they don't have a lot of main eventers. But since we're gonna talk about the men's roster, Ricky Saints, this one this one you can kind of say makes sense in a way, but I would say this though. Sean Spears won the NXT North American Championship. Now, you could argue that Sean Spears is such a vet. He's been around for mad long. He shouldn't have been on NXT anyway, whatever the case may be. But to have that belt that quickly and then, once Ricky Saint's contract expired with AEW, as soon as he come back, he basically get the belt. And I almost don't think that was in the plan. What I kind of think was they didn't realize that they could get him that quickly and that he'll be able to debut literally the next day after he was out of that contract. So when they got him, they like, I mean, we got to put the belt on him. I mean, he's a guy coming from AEW. He was a high profile guy that AEW just, for whatever reason, things fell through. So you got to put a belt on him. But I would argue that if he would have debuted on Raw or SmackDown, that he would have been fine. It still would have worked out in the long run to me because everyone who debuts don't got to be a main eventer. Everyone, it's not like Ricky Saints is going to be on NXT, North American champion, then becomes the NXT World Champion, and then he's going to go to Raw, SmackDown, become World Heavyweight Champion. That's not a guarantee. Can it happen? Sure, but look how they handled Penta. Look how they handled Ray Phoenix. They got to go to the main roster and they killing it. Look how the Motor City Machine Guns, they got to go to the main roster and they was killing it from the jump. And speaking of Motor City Machine Guns, it was but way back before they signed and they got put on SmackDown, they were actually going to put them on NXT. That was actually in the reports that the plan was that they were going to go to NXT and then Penta and Ray Phoenix was going to come in as the Lucha Bros and they were going to get put on Raw. That was the original plans, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously they couldn't get Ray Phoenix at the same time, so Penta debuted as a single star on Raw, and then they put Motor City Machine Guns on SmackDown because you know what I'm saying? It was no point of putting them in NXT at that point. So imagine if they would have went to NXT, they would have for sure won the NXT Tag Team Championships from Fraxium, which would have held back Fraxium because the reason why Fraxium are the way they are today on the main roster is because they had hella momentum on NXT and they got through hella matches. You know what I'm saying? So just imagine if that would have happened. Fraxium wouldn't have been what Fraxium is today. They probably would have lost and broke up, which is probably going to happen eventually anyway, but it would have happened way sooner. We went and got Hank and Tank, maybe. I mean, not that they're the best tag team ever, but I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? Because they'd be like, well, NXT tag team division needs a legit tag team, so send Motor City Machine Guns over there, get their runs up. And I don't want to hear this nonsense about people having to learn the system. Stephanie Vaquer is fire. I'm not, and that's what I'm not mad at. I'm not mad at her being in NXT because she's so good, and then she did something monumental, having both women's titles at the same time. But she could have debuted like Penta. Stephanie Vaquer is good enough that she didn't need to debut in NXT because she has the look. She can wrestle. They figured out how to offset her not having the best English. It really doesn't matter at this point. She's so over that people don't care, bro. People don't care that she can't cut an amazing soliloquy, a monologue promo. People don't care about that. So she would have been straight. And then people were like, well, Julia, she had to learn the system. Bro, Julia is world class. I don't think people know that Stephanie Vaquer and Julia are world class, bro. They can wrestle a broomstick and they can wrestle a 4 to 5 star match. It really doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, at this point, I just think it's excuses for real. Like, those two could have been on the main roster. Listen, y'all always talk about the business. We want to have the best matches. We want interesting matches. We want interesting stories. We want interesting feuds. With an interesting, but you know what I'm saying? If you would have put them on the roster too fast, then you had to pull the trigger, bro. Why be deprived of having Jordan Grace versus Jay Cargill on the main roster in 2025 or early 2026? Why be deprived of having Julia versus Io Sky one-on-one for the women's championship on the main roster? Why be deprived of having um Stephanie Vaquer versus Asuka on the main roster? Why be deprived of that when we can have it right now? Because you're trying to eliminate the competition out the water. In order to do that, you got to have banger matches. In order to have banger matches, these free agents that you're signing outside of WWE should be on the main roster and not going to NXT, where first of all, NXT is great and I like NXT. The casual fan doesn't really watch NXT and doesn't even know the NXT roster like that, which is why you're bringing up Julia's to the main roster, Roxanne to the main roster, even though they're not officially on the main roster. You're having Stephanie Vaquer wrestle on the main roster, even though she's not officially on the main roster. You know that for a fact. So, so you see people like a Roxanne Perez. Tiffany Stratton, Elira Valkyria, they escaped the fate of being, lost in the shuffle and being put to the side because they didn't have to deal with outsiders coming in. They had to deal with veterans coming down sometimes to have matches with them, but the veterans elevated them. Becky Lynch gave helped Tiffany have her best promo to this day. Roxanne Perez and Bailey, even though they didn't finish it, it was actually putting a light on Roxanne Perez, which then helped her get over on the main roster in the Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber match. Lyra Valkyria, the mentorship from Becky Lynch, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Like all that helped them. But when you sign a Julia and a Stephanie Valkyr, and then they take over the title scene, a Kalani Jordan, who was just in women's NXT North American champion, doesn't move up to the next stage. Or Jada Parker, who gets a shot at the NXT Women's Championship as standing deliverer, she's just there to take the pin. A Sol Ruka, even though she's one of the most talented, she could only go up to the next ring, which is NXT North American Championship, Women's North American Championship, not get a big title opportunity. A Fallon Henley had to take a loss to Stephanie Valkyr, even though that was the right decision. But a Fallon Henley should basically be on should be your Mandy Rose of NXT. You already copied the whole toxic attraction thing. You might as well go all the way and make her the champion. You see what I'm saying here? You see the parallels that's being made. What is a Ren Sinclair gonna do? You already had her on a losing streak, right? She's one of the more talented women wrestling wise. How a Lola Vice? What are you doing with Lola Vice? Even if Jordan Grace loses to Stephanie Valkyrie, then Lola Vice is next. Lola Vice is not beating Stephanie Valkyrie. And if she does, cool, whatever the case may be, I would like that because at the end of the day, when you get people from outside of WWE, you bring them in, they are already established. The casual WWE fan might not know them, but it's easier to build their profile and say, oh, she was champion all over Japan. She was wrestling in Mexico, AAA, blah, blah, blah. Whereas someone who was in NXT and they were a track runner for Alabama or did figure skating or whatever, you can't build them up. You can't just throw them on the main roster. That's why you have them in NXT so they can learn and develop. A lot of people who are in NXT right now started wrestling training through NXT. Everybody didn't come from the independent scene. Some people literally started at NXT because they had a look, they had a certain pedigree. Bianca Belair was a power lifter, a bodybuilder, and doing competitions, and she started training in NXT to become a wrestler. But she was just naturally athletic, but she wasn't on the independent scene. So those people need to be on NXT. Jordan Grace doesn't need to be on NXT. She was wrestling in TNA. She's wrestling on Independence. Stephanie Valkyrie doesn't need to be on NXT. She just had a banger of a match with Mercedes Moné. Julia doesn't need to be NXT. She's one of the more renowned people in wrestling. What are we talking about? Ricky Saints built a high profile for himself on AEW to the point where AEW fans was pissed. Ethan Page is a different story, and I'm tell you why Ethan Page is a different story because he actually transitioned flawlessly. He came in as a guy that a lot of people didn't recognize was at AEW, first of all. And when he came in as a great heel that caused disruption. But he also helped to elevate Trick with that feud that they had, and Trick Williams became a multi-time NXT champion. So Ethan Page actually helped Trick Williams out. However, Ethan Page doesn't still need to be there right now. This man has been wrestling for what, 19, 20 years. Why is he on NXT? Him being on NXT for that first stint to help Trick Williams get over was sensational. And it did things by giving him a nice profile and getting the fans to buy into how good he is as a heel character. But now he's overstayed his welcome. You see what Miles Bourne did to him yesterday? That's great. Build up the Miles Bournes. Build up the out the muds. Even if some of these people are duds, you have to do that. Like, I'm happy Jeff Cobbs didn't go to NXT. That would have been stupid because then he would have took someone else's position. He would have went against Obafemi for sure. It would have been a cool match. But then you taking somebody else's position that could go against Obafemi for the championship. That's homegrown talent. Do y'all see my point? That this signing of free agents and the releases. How about this? Right? How about this? I'm looking. You sign a Stephanie Var you this is basically what they did. You sign a Stephanie Valkyrie, you sign a Julia, you sign a Zarya, you release a Jakara Jackson, a Cora Jade. You know what I'm saying? It was basically a trade-off almost, if you really think about it. Because okay, like realistically, let's say Cora Jade stayed. Was she gonna be Stephanie Valkyrie for the championship? Was she gonna become the NXT Women's North American Champion, or is Zarya going to take that off of Sol Ruka eventually? Hmm? When she was helping Roxanne Perez battle against Julia and Stephanie Valkyrie, were they ever really gonna win? Were they ever really gonna get over? It gives them in-ring experience. They get in-ring experience against each other, and they get in-ring experience when veterans come down regardless. They get the rest of the best in the world, cool. But it doesn't help build them to go into the main roster. Like right now, they sent Kalani Jordan up to the main roster. What would you expect? You can't expect anything. But if you send Stephanie Valkyrie up to the main roster, you know what to expect. And you would have gotten the same result even if she would have went straight to the main roster and not been on NXT because Stephanie Valkyrie is world class. You playing in my face. But you sent Penta up. Everybody don't know who Penta is, bro. Prior to the casual wrestling fan, they everything they do, guys, is for the casual wrestling fan. That's what I'm trying to say. Because y'all gonna say, well, that's a dumb comparison because everybody knew Penta. Not everybody who got a Netflix account, a lot of people who got a Netflix account just started watching wrestling. Some people tune in every now and then. A lot of people don't know who Penta and Ray Phoenix was. Shoot, hella people ain't know who Motor City Machine Guns were. And they've been around for hella long. I used to love Motor City Machine Guns on TNA. All I'm saying is, don't stop it. Because if there's a big free agent, there's a big free agent. All I'm saying is reconsider where you send them. And I'm happy that Penta, Ray Phoenix, the Motor City Machine Guns didn't go to NXT because every signing doesn't have to go to NXT. Oh, they got to get acclimated to the product. That's what the PC is for. They got to get acclimated to the wrestling. They wrestled in front of crowds before. If you mean the wrestling style, that's what the PC is for, my guy. Go train with CM Punk at the PC. Go train with Carmelo Hayes at the PC. Go train with Cody Rhodes at the PC. That's what the PC is for, bro. Not NXT, where you're supposed to be putting the young guys and gals or whoever just literally just started wrestling out there to learn, to build, to cut for more promos, to get more screen time, to be champions, to see what it's like to be champions. Tiffany Stratton, Live Valkyria, Roxanne Perez know what it's like to be champions because they were champions in NXT. And that's going to translate to levels on the main roster. We'll see what the success is as we go, but they know what it's like. You know what I'm saying? They know what it's like. But Stephanie Valkyrie, Julia, and Jordan Grace, they knew what it was like to be champions before they came to NXT. Jordan Grace is gonna be NXT Women's Champion one day, most likely, but she already know what it's like. So why she gotta so essentially you came from TNA and you gotta go to the C show. That doesn't make sense to me. Does that make logical sense? And it's not like she went to NXT because she's still gonna do storyline stuff with TNA. She hasn't done nothing with TNA since she's been on NXT. So what's the point? I can see that would be part of the invasion thing. And then TNA is like, hey, listen, I know you're not officially with us no more, but you loyal to us. We made you, blah blah blah. And that's a story. That's not a story right now. It might be in the future, but it's no point. We could have Jordan Grace versus Jade Cargill. We can have Jordan Grace versus Rhea Ripley. We can have Jordan Grace and Ivy Now as the women's tag team champions. We could have Stephanie Ryker versus Charlotte Flair. We can have Julia versus Kairi Sane. Do y'all not understand? As stacked as y'all think the women's roster is on the main roster, you really gotta pay attention to who the upper echelon stars on the women's main rosters are right now. It's like five. Rhea, Bianca, Io. Guess you could say Tiffany, and then Charlotte and Becky, six. Everyone else is like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like obviously you got the Chelsea Greens up. Those are mid-card people. Stephanie Valkyrie and Julia should be boom. That's easy. Jordan Grace, boom. Even if they're in the mid card, they're higher on the mid card scale. If Jordan Grace was to go to SmackDown right now and squash Zelina Vega for the United States Championship, people would not be not convinced that that could happen. I would hate it, obviously, but you know what I'm saying? If Roxanne Perez just split right now, Julia go after Lyra's Intercontinental Championship, it would not be hard to convince me that she could beat Lyra Valkyria for the Women's Intercontinental Championship because Julia has way more experience and she essentially in the ring is a better wrestler. Like I think we going to be stunting the growth. Wesley, let me get this out the way. A guy like Wesley, because Ricky Saints is there now, he's not going to win the NXT North American Championship again, in my opinion. However, imagine if Ricky Saints wasn't there. He just went to the main roster and he was a mid-card guy for Raw or whatever the case may be, SmackDown, whatever the case may be. Maybe he beating up on Pretty Deadly or whatever, or whoever, right? So let's say. Wesley, right? Everyone's not meant to be world champion. Hell, everybody's not meant to be NXT champion. But how about this? A guy like Wesley is basically going to be your Ricochet, right? But a guy like Wesley should be a multi-time NXT North American champion, like way more so than I'm talking about like four-time or whatever case may be. Why? Think about when the Intercontinental Championship really meant a lot. When the guys like Chris Jericho, The Miz, those type of guys were elevating the Intercontinental Championship. The NXT North American Championship could still be of high prestige depending on who's holding it. If Wes Lee is considered the greatest NXT North American champion ever, then when he goes to the main roster, people still remember that. People still give him praise for that. Whereas let's just say he went to the main roster now. Basically, people are gonna call him the next Ricochet. Basically, he's gonna do Ricochet things. He's gonna be doing some cool spots and whatever the case may be, but he's gonna lose essentially, and then people aren't gonna remember the good old days. People's gonna be like, "Oh, this guy's just another job," or whatever the case may be. If Ricky Saints wasn't here right now, Wesley could win the NXT North American Championship again. Keep elevating him as he's the greatest NXT North American champion. I still got Carmelo Hayes or Obafemi as the greatest NXT North American champions. I know people would say Keith Lee as well. It's a toss-up, man. It's a lot of guys. I don't want to use recency bias, but I got Carmelo Hayes as of right now. If I could go back and think, maybe Adam Cole, but Wesley could be up there, bro. But he can't be up there if a guy from AEW just came and just took it. You know what I'm saying? What now? Wesley is just in the shadow realm. And he's homegrown talent. But he's homegrown talent that's probably not going to win the NXT championship. So you got to do something else. You got rid of a guy like Eddie Thorpe, who was a homegrown talent. You're signing these big names, you're giving them the bag, so you got to get rid of people as well. Budget isn't really a main thing, it's a $1 billion company, but it's kind of part of it if you really think about it, guys. So, and I'm not complaining. Like I said, Ethan Page, they incorporated him well. I do think Zarya should be in Jordan Grace's position, even though Zarya is an outside entity as well. But I feel like Zarya isn't as well known as the Stephanie Valkyrie and Julia was. And what they're doing with her with Sol Ruka is probably going to work out in the end. So it still feels more natural. Um, Stephanie Valkyrie, I wasn't mad at her transition because nobody expect her to be what she is now. Hindsight is 2020, so I will say that because I did think Julia was the when I saw Stephanie Valkyrie and I knew Stephanie Valkyrie was from the match with Mercedes Moné. I thought Stephanie Valkyrie should have been in Julia's position from the jump, but they presented Julia as the real one. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let it rock, and I do rock with both of them. But I thought Stephanie Valkyrie was always gonna be the one. But look where we at now. Both of them could have made an impact. You feel me? Both of them could have made an impact and not a stupid impact like putting Stephanie with LWO or putting Julia with Damage Control just because, just pair with Io Sky because, nothing stupid like that. They could have made an impact on the main roster. They didn't have to come to NXT because Royal Rumble, Julia didn't even get a good reception because people don't really watch NXT. The casual fan doesn't watch NXT, but she started on the main roster from the jump and she showed what she can do in the ring. She would have got a bigger pop at the Royal Rumble. And like I said, this is more so an issue for the women's roster of NXT rather than the men. Even though, like a guy like Javon Evans, now that he's really not in the title picture, he should be getting that NXT North American Championship. Which there's not saying that he won't beat Ricky Saints or whatever the case may be. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Like just like Jada Parker. Oh, we know why you're at stand and deliver, buddy. You're not gonna win. Like, you know what I'm saying? You'll get a high profile match, but after that, we go well, back to normal. We got to focus on our outside people who are homegrown NXT talents, who they could have just went to the main roster because they already got a profile and they know how to wrestle already. Decades of experience, if not almost a decade of experience. But yeah, man, I'm not like super mad about it or nothing like that. I just It's just certain people in the NXT roster that it's going to be very tricky if they got to keep taking a back seat to people who just got there, who, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I think, because, all right, here's my progression. Stephanie Barker has the belt. Jordan Grace gets the belt. Zarya gets the belt. Like, that's my opinion. I could be Lola Vice might get the belt, whatever the case may be. But like, then you'll have Kalani Jordan needs the belt. In my opinion, needs the belt. Jada Parker needs the belt because she just goes to the main. This isn't a Bianca Belair situation. If she just goes to the main roster without ever having the belt, it's not going to feel important because she's had hella chances. A Lola Vice, she could be cool with the mid card strap. I think she'll still be fine on the roster. A Thea Hell or Ren Sinclair, what do they do? Like they gonna have a Dakota Kai type of career if they don't get the belt off the rip. So what do you do? Like I don't know, bro. But y'all let me know, man. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank y'all for love, support as always. Hope you guys enjoyed this video today. More content coming. We're on the road to 10K, man. Let's get it. Peace.